Hey guys! I hope you had some good games this week. I just had a pretty sweet run in my Chaffee that also Wargaming did retweet, so that kinda made up for the bad games at the start of the week. Anyway, we did not sail out in World of Warships for quite a while, so I think it's high time we gave it another bash. As promised, after patch 0.3.1, we are now having a look also at the new Independence, this time at Tier 6. I was debating for a while if I should do a straight-up comparison with the old version, but A, I think it would be super boring, and B, I don't think that's all too relevant for most of you. If you are already playing the closed beta, you know of these changes, and if you are still waiting to get in, you're not really concerned with what was before. So, all in all, I will only mention the main changes in the gameplay, and we will look at the stats as if this was a brand new ship. What I also won't do is to go over the history of the ship once again. If you missed the previous video where we did discuss it, I put the link in the description below. Talking about links, your escape route to the gameplay stands ready as usual also in the description. This time I will mix it up a little, as quite frankly I did not have a great game in the Independence lately. So, instead of a long and rather boring game, I did cut together some of the more interesting parts about do's and don'ts in this CV. So, gameplay changes. The most important thing you have to realize at the moment is the positioning of the American CV line after the introduction of the Japanese carrier line. With the latest patch, the CVs as a whole have been rebalanced. You won't see several 6-plane strong torpedo bomber squadrons decimating the enemy battleships anymore, and that's a really good choice too. What you have instead is the Japanese tech tree with a heavy focus on torpedo attacks, but with 4-plane strong squadrons only, and the American tech tree that focuses on dive bombers and fighters with squadrons consisting of 6 planes. American CVs can have now only a single torpedo bomber squad at best, and at the moment that is the case for all of the tiers. Now, in the previous review with the Bogue, we did some good damage with the dive bomber plus torpedo bomber combo, but I did not have much fun using the same layout with the Independence. Being matched against higher tier ships all the time really limits your effectiveness with this layout, so until the AP bombs are introduced, I see the American line in a much more defensive position. And with 6 fighters going up against torpedo bomber squads of 4, you really can wreak havoc in the enemy lines. US Air Superiority Rules. Just be aware that higher tier planes are still a tough nut to crack, and AA from the enemy ships is super devastating as well. I feel this setup is also encouraged by the current meta. With the increasing player pool, in most games you will have at least one enemy CV you can target, and a lot of the carrier players focus now on the Japanese tech tree, which means lots and lots of juicy targets. With all that in mind, let's get down and dirty and have a closer look at those numbers. Starting off with the aircraft layout, we right away arrive at the largest problem I have with this CV at the moment, namely that it is not really an upgrade from the Bogue concerning the choice you have. Your options are still 2 fighters and 1 dive bomber squad or 2 dive bombers and 1 torpedo squad, and that just feels meh, to be honest. Now, the planes themselves can be upgraded, so it's not completely hopeless, but going up against higher tier CVs won't be that much fun this time either. At least there are now 37 planes in your hangar, so you get considerably more reserve aircraft with those 37 units, and this is great, as this was one of the issues I had with the Bogue that had only 28 of those. As expected, you don't really have a secondary armament this time either, but the AA you have is quite alright, even if the range of 3.5 km only is less than ideal. Should someone get within this range, however, they can make friendship with our 9 dual and 2 quad-mounted 40mm guns, and the 14 20mm guns that will also join in at around 2 km of range. Speed and maneuverability are another important factor, and there are some big changes here coming from the Bogue. First of all, now you can actually go to places with a 32-knot top speed, and that's a huge improvement over the 17-knot crawling speed of its predecessor. All of this speed comes at a price, however, as your turning circle is also greatly increased to 820 meters, And the rudder shift time is also now longer with more than 2 seconds this time around. And finally, Concealment is business as usual with over 10 kilometers spotting distance from the sea and 11.5 kilometer distance from the air. Moving swiftly to the modules, apart from the mandatory hull upgrade, you can choose between one of the two layouts, and you can upgrade also all 3 aircraft types. That's about it. It's all super standard, so let's move on to the optional upgrades or equipment if you prefer the term from WOT. For the first slot, I always go for the 10% increase in aircraft gun effectiveness. The second slot will depend on your layout. An aggressive bomber-heavy setup will work better with the reduced servicing time, while a fighter-heavy setup gels more with the 20% better fighter survivability. The third option is again a no-brainer for me with a reduced fire and flooding chance, while the fourth is an interesting one. So far I did usually go with the reduced recovery time from fires and flooding, but I've been wondering if with CVs the reduced rudder shift time wouldn't be a better choice. It would help us to dodge torpedoes, and if you have to rely on your crew to put out fires and flooding, you are mostly doomed anyway in a CV. Something to think about perhaps. So that's the Independence in a nutshell for you. Reworked and buffed up a tier, and well, it's still not my favorite CV in the game, that's for sure. It might be just me, but I couldn't really find a sweet spot with this carrier, and the pure supporting roles seem to be, well, just not satisfying enough. Anyway, the Ranger at tier 7 looks a whole lot more fun, and until then, enjoy these little highlights I had today. Alright, so first of all, let's have a quick look at situations that you should be avoiding with the Independence. In the first clip, we just spotted ourselves the enemy carrier. Now notice that we actually have 2 CVs and they only have 1, so taking him out with a combined force will be really helpful for the team. Unfortunately, both of us did go actually for the fighter heavy layout, so that's less than ideal. Anywho, hopefully we will be able to take down a lot of his planes with our combined forces. And there we go. If we can neutralize these fighters in the beginning, that should give us a good starting position. Now, going in with the dive bombers, with all these ships around, is a little bit foolhardy. And as you can see, the planes melt away, so it's not really a well-planned attack. However, the real problem is that there's something I forgot about this CV, and as we can see, we take out one of the squadrons, but our planes melt away as well. And the enemy planes also have the support from the carrier. So what was the problem here? Well, it's very simple. That is a tier 7 Ranger. So going against higher tiered planes supported by the enemy ships is definitely a no-go. So those 2 squadrons were completely wasted. Now, jumping on to another section. It's the same game a little bit later, and we are in shitloads of trouble. Unfortunately, all our team died in this section, and we are about to as well. However, as we noticed, that destroyer just turned broadside onto us, so that means torpedoes are incoming. However, switching to manual aim, we can still dodge those torpedoes, so even though you are not as agile as the Bogue, it's still very much a possibility to dodge those torpedoes if you are paying attention. Now, of course, dodging torpedoes is not always enough. But at least we could deny a kill for the destroyer. So, now it's time to have a look at what the Independence is good at. So in this case, we are up against 2 lower tier carriers. And there will be a lot of planes. Over the water, oh, there they come. So first of all, I want to take out this fighter squadron so it doesn't bother us anymore. And this should be really quick. Those are actually 2 fighter squadrons grouped together. And there you go. 1, 2, 3. And that fighter squadron will melt away really quickly. And then I will immediately reroute the planes to intercept one of the torpedo squadrons. There we go. If you have a choice between dive bombers and torpedo bombers, always take the torpedo ones out first. They are much more valuable. In the meantime, with the dive bomber squad, I'm moving north from where the planes came in order to spot the enemy CVs. Now there are 2 enemy CVs in this game, and spotting them will give my destroyers something to go look forward to. And in the meantime, again, have a look at how quickly those planes melt away. Oh, there is one of the CVs. A bit of derping around with the aiming there. That's better. And I go after the enemy torpedo bombers first, but then I realize it's time to move back and reload. We have almost no ammunition left, so it's better if we reload quick and then do another run. And yeah. Well, I think it's time we change clips. So a little bit later, after getting myself off that rock, we did actually sunk. Well, the team did, the enemy CV, so there are 2 torpedo squadrons left in the air. So this is just to show you how quick work your fighters can do if you put them to the test. So there goes one, and look at how quickly these 2 squadrons are being completely destroyed. Now actually this is something I wanted to ask you guys. Do you know if when a CV is sunk, the planes that are left in the air just bumble around doing nothing? Well, is it really nothing? Are they still spotting the enemy ships for their team, or are they just there so you can form some more damage? If you know, let me know in the comments below. I would be really interested. And while I rumbled about, we already took down the 2 torpedo squadrons. Now, in this last clip, this is what you do when you have no more targets to shoot at. That enemy CV is out of planes. We took down 24 planes already. So now what I'm doing, I'm keeping these 2 guys completely lit for my team, so they know exactly where they are trying to escape. Put these fighters to good use, even if you can't shoot anything anymore. The team will be really helpful for it, and hopefully, in time, there will be also assisted spotting damage added to the game. So there you go. They can't hide, they can't run. So that has been the Independence once again. No more videos about this ship, that much I can guarantee you. Next week it's tank review time once again, looking at a rather interesting part of the German Stuck family, the version G. Have a relaxing weekend guys, and I see you in one of the next videos.